Big Barda bred for battle on the hellish world of Apokolips, origins explored. When it comes to the greatest heroes in graphic novels, figures like Thor, Superman, and the Hulk come to mind. But for some reason, most readers don't give quite so much recognition to female superheroes in comics, despite the reality that some of them are powerful enough to battle alongside any male supervillain. Many of the female heroes in Marvel, DC, and Image Comics are powerful enough to hurl tanks, knock down a skyscraper, or move planets. While very few female superheroes achieve superhuman power, they at least compete on an equal footing with their male equivalents. One such dazzling but unfortunately underrated super-heroine is Big Barda.
But we're never gonna get to the bottom of it unless you open your eyes and stop being so pig-headed.
Pig-headed?
Ugh!
Not only is this lovely superheroine asininely powerful, but she was also ranked 75th in Comics Buyer's Guide's 100 Sexiest Women in Comics list. DC's Big Barda has had a remarkable transformation from antagonist to heroine. When we talk about DC's pantheon of new gods, figures like Darkseid and Orion may come to mind first, but Big Barda and her spouse Scott Free, also known as Mr. Miracle, also have a long history.
On our own.
Great news, Bertha. You don't have to.
Barda.
Isn't that what I said?
While she has seldom had a prominent role, she is one of DC's more notable characters who has also starred in the Justice League animations and several of DC's most popular events. She's also a Jack Kirby-created hero that exemplifies the essence of girl power by tearing down the spirits of all her adversaries anytime she gets the chance. With all this in mind, let's take a look at what propelled Barda from Apokolips spy to one of DC's finest victorious fighters. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
I'll count to 3. 1, 2...
Who is Big Barda? Big Barda is one of the new gods, a passionately faithful partner, and a lethal warrior in one of comics' purest partnerships. After leaving Marvel Comics in the early 70s, Jack Kirby moved to DC and carried his Asgardian Thor saga along with him. He reworked his Ragnarok plot to include new characters known as the New Gods. Barda was revealed as Scott Free's Apokolips-based ass-whooping accomplice in the title Mr. Miracle. Big Barda is a strong Apokolips new god who fell head over heels for Mr. Miracle and became a legendary warrior. Although she was once a member of the Female Furies, she has since joined the Birds of Prey and the Justice League of America after leaving her homeworld. She is the central protagonist in Jack Kirby's Fourth World Tale. From her earliest appearances in Mr. Miracle, she was a breakout sensation and a showstopper. Aside from her spouse, the character has gained popularity as a secondary character in DC Comics and animation universes. Big Barda was just as important as anybody else, according to the writer Jack Kirby.
You traced the battalion's energy signature when they deployed.
Her origin story was never thoroughly recounted within the context of the mainstream DC world, although it was detailed in Justice League Beyond number 16, released in 2013. The plot of Barda Beyond was based on 2 original Kirby stories as well as 2 others. Components from Granny Goodness's story arc in Countdown number 21 were merged with elements from Barda's mother's narrative in Mr. Miracle V2 number 28. Big Barda was birthed roughly 250 years ago on the hellish planet Apokolips of the new god's race. Big Barda, her mother, was a powerful fighter for Darkseid, who was also picked as breeding material for his army. Barda had several children that were born in the Gestatron labs, but Barda was her very first offspring. She was created organically and with pure love as a result of a secret affair with an unidentified father. Regardless, Barda was kidnapped from Barda and reared without knowing anything about her parents. Instead, like all others, Barda was nurtured under the sharp watch of the planet's most exemplary leader, Granny Goodness. Granny, a vicious crone, favored discipline, punishment, and absolute obedience as techniques of instruction. Children in Granny's orphanage were taught the motto, "Die for Darkseid." Darkseid being the malevolent lord of Apokolips. Barda was among Granny Goodness's most outstanding students, students, and she ultimately received special powers training in order to make a more formidable and loyal warrior. Current version of Big Barda in New Earth and Flashpoint Earth Zero. Barda, young by new god standards, rose to the rank of lieutenant in the female Fury Battalion. One of her young charges, a young girl called Orly, escaped one day. The Furies discovered her in the lair of Darkseid's archenemy, Hyman. They also met scot-free, one of Granny's cadets who took a stand against Barda's bravado. She was compelled to negotiate with him, agreeing not to disclose Scott's actions in exchange for him not reporting Orly's escape. Despite their agreement, news of Hyman's movements leaked, and his acolytes got apprehended. Barda and Scott were summoned to see the lifeless bodies of the children, including Orly, hung up. Barda was outraged by the girl's suffering, and as events progressed, she resolved to assist Scott in his getaway from Apokolips to Earth. Barda, however, was not yet ready to make that jump and stayed on Apokolips. Barda hadn't seen Scott in almost a century. She always thought about him, and he was constantly on her mind. She ultimately rose to the top of the Furies and received the Mega Rod. This weapon was equipped with Boom Tube, a teleportation device that she utilized to locate Scott on Earth.
Couldn't your boob tube have transported us any closer?
It's Boom Tube. Don't you think we would have come in closer if...
She came in time to assist him battle off droves of people manipulated by Granny's minion, Dr. Bedlam, masquerading as Mr. Miracle. It was a joyful reunion, and she opted to live with Scott and his manager, Oberon. They resided in the metropolis suburbs at the home of the very first Mr. Miracle, Thaddeus Brown. This Apokolips daughter rapidly developed a love for Earth's splendor and determined never to return. The female Furies led by her accompanied Barda to Earth, although not in search of their commander. Mad Harriet, Lashina, Bernadette, and Stampa were the next to go after scot-free for Granny Goddess. They failed their mission and returned to Apokolips just as Scott decided to confront Granny in person. When Scott returned to Apokolips, Barda joined him in his quest to gain his freedom honestly. When she went to the Furies' barracks to enlist backup, she saw that they had devolved into a skirmish to replace her as commander. Barda's departure had generally gone undetected, but when she publicly sided with Scott-free, she was labeled an Apokolips adversary. When Barda arrived at the scene of Scott's challenge, she assumed he was dead. Her rage erupted, and she vowed to murder her mistress Granny. On the other hand, Scott won his struggle, and Barda wept tears of joy knowing he was alive.
Scott, I thought you were dead. You insufferable showboat. I thought...
On their return to Earth, they were accompanied by the Furies, who momentarily joined Mr. Miracle's show. They appeared to like life on Earth as well. Barda seldom wore her combat armor on Earth and preferred to dress in a more relaxed, even seductive manner. After assisting Shiloh Norman in solving his brother's murder, Scott and Barda became mentors to him. Shiloh was left to their care, and Barda volunteered to help him master special abilities. Barda encountered her villainous doppelganger, the strange Della the dinosaur, at Pepe Lamoco's murder lodge. Shiloh used the power he had gained from his special abilities training to assist her in escaping the trap. Big Barda comes in Gotham City on Earth 2 alongside Mr. Miracle, who fled Steppenwolf a year before and is in hiding. They battle together against Apokolips' soldiers, who are attempting to consume Earth 2. The heroes of Earth 2 devise a strategy, but Mr. Miracle's plan backfires when he tries to eliminate a Darkseid who appears to be in hibernation. But as it turned out, he was imprisoned. Mr. Miracle unintentionally releases him, and Barda subsequently betrays her spouse. Darkseid and Kalibak then give her commands. Her armor is shattered in combat, and she flees the battlefield on one of the refugee ships carrying 2 million Earth 2 humanity. She is also featured in Future's End, where she lives on Earth 0 and joins forces with others to resist the troops of Brother Eye. She battles Power Girl and, more importantly, slays Deathstroke, who is from the future. Big Barda's major story arcs. Barda and Scott's love for each other has always been evident, if not blatant. Scott fully professed his adoration for Barda and asked for her hand in marriage after another Apokolips onslaught. She consented, but Granny's troops increased their pressure on the newlyweds. They were freed thanks to New Genesis interventions. Scott's father, Orion, Lightray, Highfather, and Metron. The Source had foretold their marriage to Highfather, who conducted the wedding right there with only a few words. Just before Darkseid descended on Earth, the newlyweds were taken away to New Genesis. Contrary to stereotypes about female characters at the time of Big Barda's inception, Barda is physically stronger than her husband, is eager to utilize her might in combat, and is fiercely protective of her spouse. Despite her ignorance of the culture on Earth, Barda embraced her responsibilities as wife and housekeeper. However, when duty calls, she never once hesitates to adopt the warrior's position. Barda accompanied Oberon and Scott on tours for many years. When Scott became a part of the Justice League, Barda took part in a fair number of their operations. They eventually decided to retire as superheroes and relocated to Bailey in New Hampshire. Despite their greatest efforts, a conventional existence escaped them. Scott, Barda, and Oberon left Bailey and relocated to an apartment in New York City's Greenwich Village, where Barda joined the Bad and Beautiful Babes of Wrestling, popularly known as the BBBW, on the recommendation of Oberon, and her tenacity helped her become the new champion. Together with her wrestling pals, Barda founded the New Female Furies, a women's self-defense training school. After Barda's mother, Big Barda, paid the couple an unexpected visit to New York, Scott was invited by Highfather in order to travel to New Genesis so that he could discover his true ancestors. Barda agreed to accompany her husband on his mission. However, the couple quickly returned to Earth and took up residence temporarily in the Justice League Refuge. The couple briefly split during this trying time as Scott completely disregards Barda's sentiments and leaves her feelings hurt. Owing to her tremendous achievements, Barda has been a member of the JLA, New God Orion, and they were deployed to serve on the squad as agents of New Genesis upon Tachyon's request. Tachyon foresaw the Earth in catastrophic peril and set the two on a mission to aid the mobilization of Earth's heroes against the all-powerful Magadon. After the defeat of Magadon, Orion and Barda resigned from their positions in the JLA. A while after this, Barda finds her purse stolen while she is in the suicide slums of Metropolis. The mugger, who escapes, is subsequently slain by an ash-crawler from Apokolips, who later discovers the perverted, repulsive, and demonic Sleaze. Sleaze proceeds to find Barda's Mega Rod in her handbag and uses it against her when she attempts to retrieve it. 2 days after this incident, Sleaze commanded Barda to dance and perform what are implied to be sexual favors for him in exceptionally provocative and skimpy clothing while barefoot and ostensibly topless. Just as he is about to have his dirty little way with Barda, Superman came to her rescue, flung Sleaze aside, and pulled Barda up from the floor, given that she is tired from dancing for quite some time. Superman asks her if she was Wonder Woman behind all the makeup. Barda used the diversion to seize the Mega Rod and repeatedly shoots Superman with it. Barda, who mistook Superman for a pawn in Sleaze's game, nearly murdered him, but before she could react, Sleaze grabbed the rod from Barda and threw them both into a hole. Sleaze then sold the video of both him and Barda to an adult entertainment shop. Darkseid's operatives obtained the footage, which Darkseid then revealed to Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle proceeds to find Barda, who is being controlled by Sleaze and was being forced to film an adult movie with Superman. Mr. Miracle arrived as Superman went after Sleaze, who died in an explosion. On one occasion, Superman collects the entire Superman family to go against Darkseid for the sake of Steel's life. Barda begs to accompany them, intending to spit in Darkseid's face, but is rejected by Superman, claiming that if non-Kryptonian heroes are present, it could give Darkseid a justification to strike against Earth. However, when Darkseid kidnaps Kara Zor-El, Barda travels to Apokolips with Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman to liberate the young Kryptonian from his hands and battles the female Furies with Wonder Woman. Later, Barda accepts Oracle's request to become the Birds of Prey's heavyweight. In a fight with the Super Six, she fights in hand-to-hand combat with Knockout, another ex-Fury. Despite the fact that the battle lasted a long time and was prioritized over all other concerns, it concluded in a tie. Barda is killed by the Infinity Man not long after this fight, but at the very end of the final crisis, it seems that she appears with a rebirthed New Genesis, which implies that maybe she is not really dead and is still alive and thriving.
That's my boyfriend.
Why is Big Barda so dangerous? In the year 1748, Barda was born. Barda, like few other new gods, is functionally eternal, having stopped physically developing at the age of 30. Unless she is killed in combat, Barda is impervious to the effects of time and may potentially survive for countless generations. She is a new Genesis being, and they consider themselves gods, and they reside outside of conventional space and time in a place known as the Fourth World. These new gods have developed into creatures of biological stability and developmental perfection as a result of their intimate closeness to the Source, a primary energy considered to be one of the fundamental roots of the universal expression of energy, as well as their superior technology. Despite their likeness to humans, the inhabitants of New Genesis are ageless, tougher, quicker, and wiser. Barda dons a gorgeous suit of armor during battle, but even without it, she is a difficult opponent to defeat. She is relatively resistant to blunt damage such as blows, kicks, and hits from weapons such as clubs and maces, but not totally immune.
Spoiler fun.
There is no danger of injury unless the strikes are delivered by a creature of equal or greater power than Barda. Her invulnerability, however, does not apply to laser blasts, piercing weapons, and bullets. Her invulnerability is similar to that of an Amazon and unlike that of a Kryptonian. Barda also has superhuman reflexes and physiology, allowing her to maneuver her entire body at impressive speeds and with pinpoint precision. She moves and flows with remarkable grace despite holding weapons, armor, and even extraterrestrial technology. Barda evades shots that would typically bounce off her armor when given the chance. Barda also possesses extraordinary stamina and endurance. Due to the inherently demanding and extended rigors of her lifestyle on Apokolips, Barda is able to maintain her endurance on a certain level of relaxation and nutrition, such that she appears to be able to operate continually. Albeit, this is not entirely the truth. Due to her power and invincibility, and to a lesser extent her immunity, Barda can really perform at high efficiency for over 48 hours before requiring to eat and sleep off the stress. Barda's superpowers stem from her ancestry as a member of New Genesis, a place in which all individuals are innately superior to regular humans in terms of physical attributes. Darkseid later modified her to improve her strength and endurance at least 20-fold. Barda's power is in the kiloton level, comparable to Wonder Woman's, and she can easily lift weights in excess of 100 tons. Barda is among Earth's or New Genesis's most feared soldiers. Barda is also a finely skilled fighter who is a master of all sorts of hand-to-hand fighting and weapon warfare. She's even drawn a battle with Wonder Woman. Tempting version of Big Barda in various forms and media. In Superman the Animated Series, Big Barda appeared in the second half of the two-part story Apokolips Now. She was spotted donning her characteristic combat gear amid the gathering soldiers of the new gods. She also appears in the year 2000 segments The Call, Part 1 and 2 of Batman Beyond, when she is shown as a Justice League member later down the line. Mr. Miracle was not mentioned, and his whereabouts were unknown. Barda donned her red bikini uniform instead of her blue combat armor in this appearance. She was wearing a golden headpiece and carrying her Mega Rod. In Justice League Unlimited, in the episode The Ties That Bind, Barda was featured alongside her spouse, Mr. Miracle, on a rescue operation to save Oberon. She was shown wearing both her full combat armor and her red bikini uniform, which didn't connect that she wore below her armor. When she wasn't wearing her armor, she wore her gold headpiece and wielded her Mega Rod. She was also in Batman, the Brave and the Bold. In the last Bat on Earth segment, she makes a cameo as Mr. Miracle's spouse. In the direct-to-video animated film Superman Batman Apokolips, Big Barda travels to Apokolips with Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman in quest of Superman's cousin Kara. When Wonder Woman and Big Barda arrive on Apokolips, they battle Granny Goodness and the female Furies together. Barda appears in flashbacks in Justice League Gods and Monsters as a part of Becca's backstory, She is one of the new gods of New Genesis, and she is present at the peace treaty reached between Highfather and Darkseid, which is symbolized by the marriage of Becca and Orion. After the ritual, however, Barda and the gods of the New Genesis slay Darkseid and his companions without Becca's knowledge. Misty Lee voices her in the online series DC Superhero High. She joined during the filming of DC Superhero Girls Hero of the Year and got along with Lady Shiva. Big Barda is one of the female Furies who attack Superhero High in DC Superhero Girls Superhero High. After being overpowered, she is jailed in Bel Rev. Big Barda is freed from Bel Rev after being reformed in DC Superhero Girls Hero of the Year, and she enlists at Superhero High. Despite Lady Shiva's reservations, she emerges to be a hero. Big Barda, now a student at Superhero High School, is taking part in the Intergalactic Games in DC Superhero Girls Intergalactic Games. During the gameplay, Lashina claims that her buddy still has affection for her, but it turns out to be a deception to obtain Barda's fingerprints and gain admission to the school in order to disable a bit of equipment. Big Barda comes as her classmates are battling the female Furies, and she leads her classmates against her former comrades, revealing once again where her allegiance lies. In the end, Barda aids the superheroes in their fight against Brainiac and Lena Luthor. Misty Lee voices her in this series. In Season 1, episode Follow That Space Cab of Justice League Action, Big Barda initially appears in a snapshot in Space Cabby's cab. In Season 1, Episode 10, Under a Red Sun, she makes her complete appearance, assisting Batman and Superman in their fight against Steppenwolf. She appears on the Watchtower monitor in Season 1, Episode 39, Forget Me Not. Big Barda is kidnapped as a hostage by Darkseid in Season 1, Episode 43, It'll Take a Miracle. Darkseid demands Mr. Miracle in return for her. Darkseid, on the other hand, is after the last piece of his anti-life equation machine. In conclusion, Big Barda is what every hero aspires to be, but is rarely able to achieve. She is not only a powerful force to be reckoned with, but she is also a breathtakingly beautiful woman, an excellent and supportive wife, and a strong and wise leader. She always leaves a mark anywhere she appears, and has quite unsurprisingly stolen the hearts of millions all over the globe. Even with everything going on around her, she manages to be supportive and loving to everyone around her, and is fit to be a god in every sense of the word. Overall, Big Barda is a terrific character that has enjoyed a considerable increase in popularity during King's and Jared's run. Nevertheless, she is a quintessential Kirby heroine that deserves more attention. Barda is a badass warrior who is a member of DC's most extraordinary pair, and it will be intriguing to see how Big Barda is portrayed in live action. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.
For top bunk.
1, 2, 3. Paper.
What? On what planet does paper beat rock?